Welcome to the Leading by History podcast, where we're on a constant journey with our listeners, walking and talking our way through history and highlighting information which is most crucial for changing our world one episode at a time. Come along for the journey with your host, Dr. Masiyahu Isra-Ul. We look forward to you getting to know us better. Leading by History. Welcome back to another episode of the Leading by History podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Masiyahu Isra-Ul. Excuse me if you hear a little something in the throat. Been doing a lot of recording, so I may be muting periodically to get a little cough in, just like just now. And so for this episode of Leading by History, we have a wonderful guest with us, Miss Regina Chaney, and she's from HOMEVA. And so, on this program, we attempt to have a variety of guests and have a variety of topics through varied content. Today is a really important conversation because we want to talk about housing and minoritized populations. So we just want to go ahead and welcome to the program Miss Regina Chaney. Thank you for being with us today on the Leading by History show.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me. I am certainly eager to share information about the organization and the work that we do.
Well, thank you. Well, let's go ahead and jump right on in. So, first of all, can you tell us a little about your organization? Say its name again and what's its origin and purpose so our audience can be familiar.
Okay. Home of VA, the acronym stands for Housing Opportunities Made Equal. We are a statewide organization. We are a private, nonprofit, civil rights and fair housing organization. The origin of home goes back to 1971, 72, when there was, housing discrimination existed, and there was a lot going on there, and a small group of people decided that they wanted to address those issues. And so that's really how the organization began. We have been in operation, I would say, advocating for fair housing rights in Virginia for about 54 years. And very proud of the work that we've done. We've had some landmark cases that has actually changed the fair housing arena for all fair housing organizations around the country. Our mission is to ensure equal access to housing for all people. And we work, the work we do toward that mission is via our fair housing enforcement. Working to ensure that everyone has the right to choose where they want to live free of discrimination. We investigate instances of discrimination in the housing industry. We enforce law through fair housing complaints and our observation of potential illegal housing related activities that we see. We assist first-time homebuyers with housing counseling and education and down payment assistance. Right now, it's up to about $25,000 on an average. And that's in the Richmond metropolitan area: Richmond, Henrico, Chesterfield, Hanover, Goochland, New Kent, Petersburg, Hopewell. I hope I didn't forget anything. But anyway, the details on our website. But we provide down payment assistance in all those areas. And we know that homeownership has been long a meaning to achieve financial security and building wealth. And each year we assist hundreds of families to achieve that goal. We also help families who have housing choice vouchers secure housing in areas of opportunity. We assist families to avoid foreclosure to protect their investment in that wealth building process. And our research and housing policy team works closely with legislators to impact statewide policy to bring about meaningful and progressive change um, to housing in Virginia. And we do that by researching past housing trends and analyzing the economic impact of segregation and discrimination. And by doing that, of course, we gain a better understanding of how current issues come about and how we can begin to remedy them. So we do a lot protecting folks' rights.
And so this is the website here, correct, that I have
Yes,
pulled
thank
up.
you for bringing that up.
Yeah, so um, it's here. It talks about how the mission is ensuring that equal access and housing for all of the people. And again, as you said, to address housing related systemic inequities that perpetuate segregation, concentrations of poverty and wealth inequality. So that seems how to let me just ask you a question. So would this tie in with when we talk about the redlining that has happened in
Mm.
communities and in my work with organizations in the historical Jackson Ward area, how the local government plowed through that old community that was there in Jackson Ward to put that freeway in, but it destroyed the community that had been thriving and creating businesses the 1940s and 50s, et cetera, 60s. And so, I mean, is that your lane for your organization? Is helping in some instances to repair people who have been on the receiving end of some of these historical things that I've talked about?
Well, I would say definitely that is our lane because communities that have been redlined over the years still suffer.
Mm,
And so, yes, we are definitely in that lane. In fact, that the freeway, the 95 going through, those kind of activities happened in major Black communities across this country.
yes.
We can look at I-95 that went through a predominantly Black community in the near West End. There
Mm-hmm.
have been other instances where, through urban renewal, is what it was called, to remove predominantly Black communities. I mean, we have certainly the community down at Fulton.
Mm,
Historic Fulton was totally destroyed because of urban renewal, and with the promise of having, bringing people back to the community. But it was 40 years before work began, so and there was no road coming through there. You know what I'm
mm,
saying? So there have been so many acts of, I consider, violence against community of color just because of who they are.
mm.
So that definitely that is our lane. And and I'm going to tell you a little story in a little bit about redlining, unless you want me to just go ahead and talk about it now.
I mean, feel free. I mean, as you are so
And
moved.
right, I am. Because redlining really is how I got involved in the work that I do and this organization. In the late 70s, I purchased a house directly from an owner, and I was looking to rehab that. That property at that time was valued at 6 times the amount of money that I was seeking, but I couldn't find the money I needed.
Mm,
I was denied loans from local banks and savings and loans, and I even was denied by the bank that I worked for at the time. My grandmother, who was an activist, suggested that I attend this meeting with a group. It was with Richmond United Neighborhoods, and they were talking about a subject called redlining, something I was not familiar with. And so I learned from attending my first meeting that it didn't matter that I was a college graduate, that I had a full-time job, that I had excellent credit, being denied repeatedly for a loan to begin my rehab on this property was solely related to where my property was located. And it's located in Churchill. And certainly that's a community that has been redlined, like I said, for many years. So I shared my story with the group, and the timing was actually excellent because at that time, two major banks in Virginia were about to merge. And so my experience with redlining became the support and confirmation needed to file the first CRA challenge in the South at that time. And CRA stands for Community Reinvestment Act, which could, by filing that, we could block the merger of these two lenders. So the group of us, which was totally about 8 people, met with the leaders of both institutions after we filed the challenge with the Federal Reserve to discuss the community's needs from this newly formed institution. And having this understanding of discriminatory practices, I made it my commitment to educate other people of color, people in my community, and really anybody who would listen, how to achieve equal access to housing, and how to recognize when you've been treated unfairly and what to do about it. And so I've been at this work for about 43 years. So that's how I got involved. Um, because of my own experience and understanding the results of that. And yes, on our website, there's research that we've done. There are papers that we have on our webpage to delve a little more into the redlining issue, and particularly as it relates to our city.
And for those who are listening, just wanted to be clear that redlining, according to the Federal Reserve, says that redlining is the practice of denying people access to credit because of where they live, even if they are personally qualified for loans. And historically, mortgage lenders once widely redlined core urban neighborhoods and black populated neighborhoods in particular. And so I wanted the audience to be aware of the definition. And of course, as an assistant, adjunct assistant professor at the University of Richmond, go Spiders, I wanted to bring up what one of my colleagues had made, given us access to. Dr. Ed Ayers had made us aware of a website. It's dsl.richmond.edu, and it's a redlining site that focuses on redlining in Richmond, Virginia. And you can take a look at race, poverty, health, climate, life expectancy, tree cover, and heat island, where you can start seeing through this map. It's very detailed. What areas in the city are best, right? On the HOLC grades, you have A, B, C, and D. A is best. B is still desirable. C is definitely declining, and D is hazardous. And this is very informative because you can look at the city here and just sort of see what areas are considered hazardous. And the closer you get to that right outside of downtown area, right, which we know to be those famous neighborhoods, black neighborhoods, it gets to be, very, very much less desirable. And so then you see the map changing over time, right? And I'm just showing that for those who are watching for from the isn't that an awesome map? Those who are
It
watching,
is.
you're able to really see what's going on here. And you mentioned near West End. We refer to it as the real West End. Uh,
Right. Okay, I got it.
yeah, yeah, being from that area, Idlewood,
Okay.
Maplewood, and
Yes.
going over to
Yes.
Meadow and et cetera. But here, William Byrd Park. right?
Yes.
This is the area right outside of the area. You see the streets that I called, Idlewood Avenue, Maplewood Avenue, Cary Street, Randolph Village, right? And this is being brought up, and you can jump into this and sort of see. It says even proximity to an African American neighborhood could lower your grade.
Yes.
For instance, HOLC's agents explain that the white neighborhood of Bird Park received a lower grade because of its proximity to the African American neighborhood of Randolph, right?
Yes.
And it's funny
Yes.
because when I was coming up, those streets, Idlewood, Maplewood, Rosewood, we considered that the hood. That was a pretty rough area. But now, the homes over there are selling for $500,000 because it's changed yet again, right? Uh,
But I remember the real West End before it was maybe considered the hood. There
mm,
were, I mean, because I go back way back into the 60s.
mm-hmm,
I mean, that was a really stable neighborhood. Yes, it was predominantly Black, as was Churchill and Blackwell.
mm-hmm,
But yes, you're absolutely right. There's so many things that you said, because there's so much history with regards to redlining and
mm-hmm,
how lending institutions, and the federal government, um, work to make that such a reality. And I mean, there's some just horror stories. I mean, there's stories back in the 30s and 40s when um, FHA FHA became a lending tool. The federal government actually, in several cases, and we're going into 30s, 40s, during white flight, when white people began to move out into the suburbs,
mm-hmm,
and developers were given money by the government to support the building of those suburbs. There's some stories where the government actually, um, it was beneficial to a developer. You were supported if you did not, the farther away you were from a Black community, the better.
mm-hmm,
There was an instance where, with a developer, because of how they were building and where they were building, they actually had to build a wall
mm,
between the new development and the Black community that was close by, to ensure that they got the funding they needed from HUD.
wow.
And so, I mean, and I also want to make a comment, but it's not just about lending with redlining. It is also insurance. And
Mm,
we know that having a house property, you need property insurance.
correct.
One of Home's biggest cases back in the late 90s was because of insurance redlining. And what we did, we worked with a few other fair housing organizations around the country, but focused here, looking at nationwide insurance and how they insured homes in communities of color. And what we found was that for years, they either did not provide homeowners insurance, or that the homeowners insurance policies that they did write, the
Mm-hmm,
premiums were higher
exactly.
for the uh, same property, same make, brick, same size. They just were on a different side of the track, right?
Mm-hmm,
During that case, our attorney, we had two wonderful attorneys. One by the name of Tim Kaine, which I know everybody knows.
mm-hmm,
He was fresh out of law school then, and a girl named by the name of Rhonda Harmon, who has since passed on, did an awesome job in working through that case. And the end jury verdict was that Home was awarded $100 million
mm,
because of that evidence. Now, of course, Nationwide came back and went, okay, we can't pay you $100 million. Let's come to the table and negotiate. But the end result was that Nationwide, or the leadership there, recognized, not that they didn't know that before, that all communities that you should insure.
Hmm.
Okay? There's a benefit to both sides for that. There's no evidence that communities of color burn their house down just to get insurance. We know we don't do that. That's
Hmm.
not us. When you talk about that, you talk about somebody else. But it was good business. And so that particular case itself changed how things worked in the insurance industry. Now, that's been about 25 years ago,
Hmm.
and we find that that thought process, or there's a different thought process with the same end result of discriminating against communities of color or property where people of color live. We're finding that there is a resurgence of what happened before, which is, history repeats itself.
Correct, correct. And you wouldn't expect that from someone that says they're on your side, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, we're not sure which side that was, but
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
but that's a major piece too. So when we talk about the fair housing law and protection of sales and rental and financing. It's also other housing related activities such as homeowners insurance, HOA, homeowners association, condo associations. All the law applies to those kind of activities as well.
So what is the relationship with regard to HUD? Do y'all have any interactions?
With HUD, absolutely.
Okay.
Well, Home, first of all, is a 501(c)(3). We're a
Hmm.
certified housing counseling agency. We've been certified for probably about 47 years. And we receive funding from HUD to support our fair housing and counseling activities. In fact, we receive, of course, information from HUD relating to housing issues reported to them, which recently included the uptick in anti-Semitism, which was the basis for me reaching out to you.
Mm. Right, right. Yes, and you saw us when we were out promoting our Black Judaic Heritage Center's work, supporting that. Um, so how, how can you talk to us about the importance of the work for today with regard to what you're doing for minoritized populations? Like, why do folks in minoritized populations need to know about the work that you're doing? And then also with that, is your organization bipartisan? Is it leaning
Okay.
one way or the other? Hmm.
Well, I will say, as I mentioned earlier, Home investigates instances of housing discrimination, and that's based on protected classes. So I just want to review the protected classes because I think it's in what I found in the work that I do community outreach around the state. And when I go out to talk to agencies, housing agencies, communities, um, people aren't aware of their fair housing rights. They don't know what the protections are. They know a few, but they're not familiar with them and really to understand what they are. So, number one, as most folk would think, race, but that includes all races. Color, and that's based on a person's skin tone. And I will tell you, every protected class I talk about or mention, there's a case for it. Okay. Not just with Home, but from other groups around the country, the National Fair Housing Alliance, if you get an opportunity to look at their trends report, will kind of categorize, the cases that have been received across the country in each one of these categories. So color based on skin tone, national origin. National origin is based on the person or their ancestry. The important piece for or issue with national origin is you don't have to be a citizen to be protected under fair housing law. So all citizens are protected. Sex or gender preference, religion, based on a person's religion or the lack thereof. Family status, that's protection for families with children. disability status. And there are other protections, there are additional protections for persons with disabilities, such as reasonable accommodation, reasonable modification, and design and construction guidelines for buildings that were constructed after March 13th, 1991. And I invite anybody who's listening to, again, go to our website and look at more details about the protections and examples of what that might look like. Virginia has additional protections. One is elderliness. That's a protection for persons who are 55 and older. Source of funds, which is really a wonderful tool that we have now. I think it's probably only 13 or 18 states in the country that have source of funds as a protection. That is a protection for person using funds other than their own. A great example is housing choice vouchers. For several years, of course, housing choice vouchers out there to help people pay for housing. It's a subsidy. But at some point, housing providers decided that they didn't want to accept them. Okay, we don't want to, and a lot of that had to do with their perception of who had a voucher. Okay, that was one issue. Um, but now you can't do that in Virginia. And let me see, with the cases that we do, race and disability were the top number of complaints that we received. Now it's race and source of funds. But other source of funds, examples might be utility assistance, rental assistance, or even child support. In Virginia, we have protection for active veterans and military, for active military and veterans and their families. I want to note, though, that criminal history is not a protected class, but because of the disparate impact theory, we have been able to manage or to assist individuals who have a criminal history who were denied housing to get housing, and also settlements from being denied or discriminated against because of that criminal history. Which, when we look at our criminal history system, we know, what that looks like. So with regards to the disparate impact, it's like when you look, I wish I had my slide, but when you look at the prison system in Virginia, prison and jails, as it is across the country, men of color, women of color, make up the majority. And so as returning citizens, they are more impacted when trying to find housing, how it falls into the disparate impact theory. So you ask about home and being bipartisan.
Mm-hmm.
As we research housing trends and gather data, and we do that internally and externally, we reach out to both political parties to discuss the issues we see, to have meaningful conversations, to raise awareness, and to advocate for systemic change. So yes, we have a policy person in our office that is now working on the housing agenda for our next General Assembly session, and
Okay.
out there constantly working with both sides. So yes, we are bipartisan.
So before we come to a close, I have a, a question I want to ask about, what are some of the potential setbacks, if any, that you might envision with the changing of the administration at the federal level and possibly at the state level as well? I mean, things are going to change each time a new, administration comes in. Do you foresee any problems, any challenges because of maybe the political perspectives of, the incoming administration versus the one that was leaving?
To tell you the truth, I wish I had another 30 minutes for that one, because there's so much to be concerned about. Unfortunately, fair housing rights are under attack. There's talk about suspending like all grants to organizations like Home, that investigate fair
Mm,
housing violations and that educate people on their rights.
mm,
There's talk about abolishing the disparate impact theory, massive budget cuts for funding, like for the Virginia Fair Housing Office, which would make it harder to enforce the fair housing law,
Mm,
slashing funding for housing choice vouchers, which is the federal government's largest source of housing assistance in communities across Virginia. Ending fair housing testing, which is a tool that Home and other fair housing organizations used and have used for decades to uncover and prosecute violations of the fair housing law. And then, of course, with regards to the state, federal mandates that will affect what happens in Virginia. And I know we're sort of running out of time, so I do want to give some sort of takeaways,
okay,
if I will,
go
if I
ahead.
may. I would say number one, please stay in touch, informed, stay informed. And you can do that by bookmarking our website, right? Following Home to see what we're working on, what trends are popping up, what issues are there that are critical. And oftentimes it's about needing voices. Okay, sign up for emails. So we don't send you emails 3 and 4 times a day, but we send you the important ones when things need to happen that people need to know about, and hopefully to support. You said you'll have the website up, the homeofva.org.
Mm-hmm.
December 5th at the Valentine Museum, will be discussing. The title is "Let's Talk About Housing in the 21st Century, Richmond." That's at the Valentine Museum, which is 407 North 10th Street. It's 7 to 8:30 p.m. and the event is free. I'd like everyone listening to know that all of us, are a member of at least two protected classes,
Mm.
and know that Home is here to protect your fair housing rights based on on those protections. I would say, just in closing, to connect with Home, stay connected to us, join the fair housing movement, become a tester. Testing is, like I said, it's a great tool, and we need testers for all memberships, for other protected class. Sign up, like I said, to receive our emails that are critical and will have important housing information. And of course, we always appreciate donations.
I think we all
Mhm.
appreciate some donations, right? Yeah, but
That's
most
right.
certainly.
That's right.
Yeah, let's make sure
But
our audience supports.
and I do want to say that it's so unfortunate where housing is right now. The number of homeless families, the issues that are happening with our housing in this country, because housing is a basic human right.
Mhm.
It is basic human right. And when your rights are violated, oftentimes you don't recognize it. If you think you know what's happening, you don't know what to do with it, you don't know who to tell it to.
Mm,
And that's why Home is here, because we want you to know what's going on, how to recognize it, and what to do with it. And it's not always about the money, but you know, we settle cases. I've worked on a criminal history case before when I was in fair house on the fair housing team. That the result was $40,000 for this family who were denied housing because of a 10-year-old conviction.
mm,
And they were able to take that $40,000, move and buy them a house.
mm.
You know what I mean? It's things like
Right,
that.
right.
I've done disability cases where the results were anywhere between 35. I've had a 40,000. I had a $93,000 settlement with a COA, with a condo association, because of how they treated this woman who had a disability.
Mm.
So again, it's not about the money, it's about changing mindset. But there are some things that the deeper you go in the pocket, the better it is.
Right, right. For sure. You hit them in the pocket and they will definitely pay attention. Well, Ms. Chaney, I thank you so much for being with us today on the Leading by History show. Our program seeks to bridge the gap between K-12 education, educators, listeners, and academia, and we attempt to discuss different kinds of topics that may be of relevance, but I think housing is of relevance to everyone. And I thank you for
Yes.
stopping by to share this with us. So, everyone, make sure that you visit the website. Say it again for us. Home
It's
v
homeofva.org.
dot org. Okay.
Homeofva.org. And actually, I don't know how you send out my email, but if anybody would like to connect with me personally with an issue that you're dealing with some concerns you have, discussion you need, please feel free to do that. That's R. Chaney, RChaney at homeofva.org.
Well, thank you so much. And that well, this is definitely going to go up on our website. We're going to make sure the audio is available for folks, and we also have the video available, and so folks can go back and watch again and revisit the information. So we thank you for taking the time to be with us today. And customarily, as we say in our tradition from Leading by History, we say peace. Thank you.
Peace.
Thank you for tuning in to the Leading by History podcast. We enjoyed being with you today, and we look forward to being with you again soon. Remember, never accept any information on face value alone, but always keep a leveled head and go and investigate the sources. Leading by History. Peace.